Okay, so this video is about container homes. I did a container in Australia just to see how it would go, and the pictures, as you're going to start to see, are coming up there for you to look at. But I've never done that sort of thing. I am not a builder, but I wanted to see if it was possible and follow the ideas of what could be. And what I ended up doing, just to assist maybe if you're thinking this, is it's really not that hard. I think it's a fantastic idea to put a container, if you have some land or even some space in your backyard or somewhere where you're able to do this. I suggest it's a great idea. The Venezuela video, which you can see on our the resources here on the YouTube, or that, you know, he was saying during times of high inflation, people lose their homes ultimately, and when they lose their homes, you'll end up with 20, 30 family members living in the same home. We're going to start to use every resource, and the creativity of life is going to be there. So it's not a big deal. I mean, if you want to make the container homes like you see on TV, that's a big deal, and that's big money. But I wanted to set out to see how cheaply I could do it. And I made this container home that you can see. It ended up owing me about $800 it cost. And I got on and found like a used kitchen that was good quality. I put that kitchen in there. The parts of the kitchen I didn't use, I sold, and that helped cover. You know, ultimately the kitchen cost me nothing. I made money on the kitchen. The deck that you'll see on there, I think that cost me about $30. I went to the hardware store over here in Australia. It's called Bunnings. For the Americans, that's like Lowe's or Home Depot. And they have the twisted woods or the, you know, slightly damaged, and you buy it for $1 or $2 or something. And so I bought those over. As I was doing the container, I would call in at Bunnings and see that, and oh, there's another piece of wood, and I'd get it, and I'd go to the shelf and see a bunch of twisted ones and ask them if they were going to dispose of those, and they would mark them down for me. A little proactive, right? Then I made that deck, as you can see there, and the deck was not completely perfect, but I'm not a craftsman. But it was good. That container was made in a part of Australia that's very hot, so it needed insulation, and so I ended up buying the refrigeration paneling that you can see on the top. That was an old veranda that somebody was selling, and a veranda porch. I don't know what the Americans would call that, but roofing. So I bought all of that. It had a lot of support pylons with it. I sold the support pylons for more than I paid for the paneling. As you can see on the end of the container, that stuff is structurally sound, so I made an extra piece on the end of the container that gave a lot of extra living space. I ultimately ended up, there was a probably 80-something-year-old lady and her 30-something-year-old son excuse me, lived in that for a time. I didn't get a chance to finish it. They used a portable toilet in there. The running water I had from a garden hose. I know it didn't taste great, but I used the black piping instead of the rubber hose, so you didn't get the flavor, and ran the water to it. The overflow of the water was just going out onto the ground, which I would have had filtered so that excuse me, so that it didn't attract animals, critters, you know, that would come to eat. So the electricity, that container actually came with electricity, just in a couple of points. I paid an electrician to come out and to wire the whole container. It wasn't very expensive. He allowed me to help run some of the wiring, and I sort of became his assistant while he was working. I put the lights in the roof. I made that roof panel. I mean, you can see I just had a beam along one end and a lower beam on the other, so the roof was tipped, and it gave a cavity there, which was things were able to be stored in. The flooring, I found somebody had pulled up vinyl flooring. I bought all that flooring. Somebody else that wanted some paid for half of that, and then I think well, actually, I think because I went and picked it up and did it, they paid for it all, and so the flooring didn't really cost. But a few things you want if you're going to get a container, make sure you get one that's structurally sound. So you don't want holes in the roof, and check that. Get inside it and look good, because you'll see the light when you look out. You'll see the light on the outside through little holes. Just it's better if there's no holes. And the floor, make sure the floor is structurally really good, because the one I had to redo the floor. I had to do a lot of repairs for the roof. Now, if there is a hole, I just use Sikaflex, which is a glue, and metal plates. Put the glue on it and just stuck plates over it, so I didn't have to get involved in welding that. A few other things. If you stick to a 20-foot container, they're a lot easier to move because regular tow trucks can move them. So I was getting the containers moved for about $100. They just come with a tilt tray and slide the thing on and off they go. What else? Oh yeah, I mean, I put it on bricks when you get it, so it's up off the ground, and you're not getting, rust on you because it's sitting on the ground then. And the one I had air conditioning in it already, but you can see in the pictures it's not a work of art, but it's completely livable, and we had somebody living in there. Oh, the holes, I bought an old door, a glass door, off what the Americans would call like a Craigslist, which would be a classified site here, classified ads. And then I cut the hole. Now, my cutting of the hole, because I've never done it before, was a little bit wavy and not the greatest. I just used an angle grinder, and it actually didn't take much. I don't even think it took more than one wheel. A lot of sparks. Then I got some Angerline, which was wider, and I bolted that on the inside of the door for a door frame, because then I was able to, it was straight, it gave me a straight edge, and I was able to actually move it with a level to make sure the door frame was straight. So even if the cutting wasn't perfect, putting Angerline in there, which I got from Bunnings, well actually I got it somewhere else, but it was from Bunnings, the hardware store, and it was good galvanized hard shell. So I got old windows. What else? Yeah, it's completely doable. So I just wanted to, encourage you, have a go. Just think practically. Like, it doesn't have to be, something they want to put on TV. It's so fantastic. If you're going to use all new stuff, you're going to pay a lot of money to get that container home done. Like I said, the one that you're looking at there ended up costing me $800, and that was with the container. Because the things that I bought, I was able to sell what I didn't use. I actually bought 2 containers. I sold one container for more than I think I'm nearly covered cost on just selling the other container. Be smart about it. Ask questions if you like. You can send some comments. I can more than happy to give you my thoughts on it. Coding, zoning, government zoning. People were asking about that at one point. Up where I was, it's okay. There's no zoning needed as long as it's not got any permanent fixture. So if it was cemented to the ground or a permanent veranda was put on it or something. So my deck that's there was just sitting on blocks and tie, bolted to the block, big concrete blocks that I'd put there. I filled a bucket up with cement when it's set, then I put that there as just sitting on the ground, really. Then, so zoning, you probably find, as long as it's not a permanent structure, if it gets joined to another container, I think you can get some hassles there. There's ways around it. We look at solutions, don't we? We don't look at problems. So, and I'm trying to think what else there may have been that I was confronted with, but really it was pretty straightforward. I think you might want to be a little considerate of your neighbours, because if you get your neighbours offside with it, you'll end up with somebody banging on your door. But what ultimately I was going to do before my situation changed there was I was going to, and that may still eventuate, I had availability of some land that wasn't mine, and I was going to continue to make these units, and I would have put as many as I could there, 20, 30, 40. And people get kind of uptight about, well, you're going to end up with a low-class trailer park. And I think we should probably do well to understand that when the economy changes and people are desperate, they're going to be considerate. So right now, if you had, in our economy, if you were renting low-income housing, you're going to end up with, all sorts of troubles. And I don't need to go there. But, excuse me, as the economy goes the way it's going, you're going to get good, respectable people that need somewhere to live, and they'll be very respectful of what they're in. So I think you bear in mind the dynamic of people that are going to need low-income housing is changing. It will change. So if you have that ability, and in fact, if you need to get on to me, I'll help you. I'll in ways that I'm able to just help encourage you to get that going. So I was going to put these parks in there. The toilets, I'd never really ended up finishing that, but you can get composting toilets. You can get the portable little potties that you can empty every day, which is not ideal. And the one that's great, but it's so expensive, are the incinerating toilets, and you can look those up. They just, somebody went in there, it just incinerated it, and you end up with a little bit of ash. And I would have loved to have gone there, but it was not practical financial wise. I think it was $6,000 for the toilet. The shower, I was in the process of getting, you can get a whole surround that you just slot in, and I would have run the black piping on the outside and just been a shower. Pretty, pretty crude in many senses, but able to be used, able to be done. I used Foamofill to fill in the joints so that we didn't get any leakages or anything like that. And bought a lot of used, well, not used, but materials like the flashings from the classifieds, with just odd bits on people's jobs that were left over. Paint, I painted the container to make sure it was not going to rust. And the best thing to paint is you go to the big paint stores and you buy the tins that are miscoloured. People have returned them because they don't want them. So I was buying, hundreds of dollars worth of paint for, $10. So the paint cost me nothing. And I got good exterior paint. I put a lot of paint on there. It was on thick, so it was, it was good. So there's many creative ways that you can do this. Great idea. Get onto it if it's something you think you can do, because you might end up with family in there, friends in there. And I was renting it for about $180 a week for a time there. Now think about it. It owed me $800. I I was renting it for 180 a week. In a month, nearly a month, it was paid for. So really, that container made me money. It didn't didn't make me a lot, but yeah. And I think as the economy collapses, people may not have the availability to pay cash, but they're going to pay you with their services. They'll pay you with things they can do, and we're going to create that community like Epic, where people are helping each other to get through a hard time. Resources. It's all about building resources now for what's ahead. Get ready now. Forget about your elections. Forget about the fact that the world may not be going the way you want. Switch gears. Stop looking at it and go, oh, things are going bad. All right, we know that. Get over it. Start acting. Start preparing. Start building. Get on to me if you need help.